Good afternoon. Thank you all for attending this IEP for AJ. I'm Lisa Rotert. I am the special education teacher here at St. John. Let me introduce you to all of those who are in attendance. This is Mr. Matthews, our school building principal, Mrs. Dryden, our school psychologist, Mrs. Helfrich, our general education teacher, and of course, AJ's parents, Andrea and Ben. Thank you all for being here today. Um, I just want to say, as we're going through this IEP, feel free to stop me anytime, okay? Just to discuss whatever we're doing or have any questions or you need clarification on anything. Most of this information has been things that we've discussed along the way in order to even create the IEP. So anytime you need to interrupt and talk about something, let's do that so that we can do what's right for AJ, okay? So this is the annual IEP for AJ. I wanted to share some results of some testing and assessments that I have conducted. I administered these tests to determine some of AJ's strengths and weaknesses in his academics. We used several assessments to determine placement, modifications, and accommodations for AJ. So some observations by the parents. I'll just read those off since you submitted those. AJ has ADHD. They are noticing that he has a hard time focusing. They get calls from the school frequently about his lack of participation in class, and they would like to continue to see AJ pulled out for ELA and math into the resource room. Some observations by you, Mrs. Helfrich, that you submitted. AJ struggles with getting started on assignments, then has a hard time focusing on assignments. He is often seen looking around class and not engaging in class participation. He is often lost when he is called upon. Um, and he fidgets a lot. That's something that I've noticed. We're fidgeting a lot. We're starting to make noise in class. Starting to be a little bit of a distraction to others. So we started off doing the norm reference testing. It was administered by the school psychologist. It was the Woodcock-Johnson test. This is a reevaluation of his academic scores. We do this every 3 years to stay up to date on where he is academically. Let me share you those test scores. Okay, so here we have the bell curve of his same age peers, okay? So in reading, he scored an 84, broad reading was an 81, basic reading skills was an 84, and reading fluency was an 81. Those are all in the low average. Mathematics, broad mathematics, math calculation skills, those were all in the average range. He's doing well in mathematics. Overall academic skills, he scored an 85, which is again in this low average range. Letter word identification was 85. Applied problems was an 83, low average. Spelling is in the 77, which we're kind of getting over here in this low range. Passage comprehension and calculation, he was at average. Word attack, just barely below that average line at 84. Oral reading was at 92. He did really well on that. Sentence reading fluency is 78. So again, we're kind of borderlining that low number here. And math facts fluency was in the average range. So your question about keeping him in class for math, I know the scores showed that he's in the average range. But for him, it's the reading of the math problems and the staying focused. So I don't see any reason why we should put him back in the classroom at this point, until he's ready to be able to stay on task and do what he's asked to do. So we will continue to pull him out for mathematics and for reading because of the scores on that test. So yeah, most of his scores were low average for the areas of reading. So he still qualifies under the eligibility and need for special education services under the exceptionality of a specific learning disability. And that's in the area of reading fluency, and that affects mathematics. It affects everything that he does daily. So We'll just keep an eye on him in those areas. So curriculum-based measurements was the next category that we used for assessing. So the curriculum-based measurement used to measure AJ's reading level and reading comprehension was oral reading fluency paragraphs. So the purpose of this assessment is to measure the words per minute a student can read at any given moment. I also used it as a reading comprehension test. So after he read the full paragraph, I asked him 5 questions to see how many he could answer correctly. And he did great. He was at least 80% or above on all of those. Let me pull up that chart so you can see it firsthand. So this one's a little harder to read. So here we have, this is his line, this blue line. So here in October, when we tested him to begin with, he was at a 79, and this was actually in a 4th grade reading level. So his baseline was at a 70, and our aim line, where we want him to be, is at 100, okay? So he was at 79, 86, sorry, 86, 79 to start with. The second one was an 86, so that was in December, still at the 4th grade level. So 86 was moving up. So when I tested him again, I started with 4th grade. He did great. So I went up to the 5th grade level. So that's where you see this blue line. We transitioned from 4th grade reading to 5th grade reading. And here he scored a 91 on the 5th grade reading. So then when we did it again, I again shifted from the 5th grade reading up to the 6th grade level reading, and he scored 100, which is fantastic. So that was in May that he scored the 100. I wanted him to be able, I wanted to see if he could continue that line upwards. So I tested again at reading level at 6th grade reading and in June, and he dropped to 76. So this is when I implemented an intervention with this green line here. So the intervention was I simply just had him read some books. I had him go home, read a few simple books. They didn't have to be grade level, just get his mind warmed up again, thinking about school and reading and just doing a little bit of brain exercises, right? So then when I came back and tested him in July, he scored an 88, which is really good. So I'll be excited to score him again at the same 6th grade reading level when he gets back to school and see where he's at. Okay, so so then I did 3 informal assessments. So the first was a curriculum-based assessment. This kind of gives me an idea of his understanding of the subject. So the first one was in the area of math, and we were trying to see if he could do the inequality algebraic phrases that we'd been working on. So I will pull this up to share with you to see, and I don't think you'll be surprised. He got 13 out of 15 with help, or without help, I'm sorry. And then 2 out of the 15, he got them correct still, but with some help. And then he got none of them incorrect. He did very well. He had we had to do one together for him to remember how to do them. So once we did the one together, then he was good to go. I think there was another one that he just struggled with the math and how it worked out. So yeah, he got 100% with only 2 of them that he had help with. So this showed me that AJ understood the inequality equations, and then we can move on to the next lesson. So the second informal assessment that he was given was an observation, determine how much time he was on task versus off task during the class period. This was, class periods are 45 to 50 minutes long. Oops, I clicked the wrong button to get to. share my screen. There we go. Okay, and so down here in this one class period, it was during math. He was on task 86% of the time and off task 13% of the time. So looking at this pie graph, you can say, well, he is not off task very much. And no, he really wasn't that day. He had a really good day that day. Well, I think he really enjoyed the math lesson, so that helped. But he was, I'd say this number would probably be a little higher in other situations, just simply because of the work that he was working on. So typically, I would say probably 25 to 30% of the time is off task. Um, but that day, again, he was really into the assignment, so that really helped him be able to stay on task. So he is, when I talked to him afterwards, he said he is very aware of being off task and that he is trying to use some of his tools that we've taught him. By, rubbing his fingers together to remind him to focus, trying to find one thing in the room to look at for a minute for that to trigger his focus. So he said that when he's off task, he's noticing that he's able to use those tools to try to bring himself back on task, but he's still struggling with staying on task like he'd like to. And he's aware of it. The third informal assessment that we did was a checklist. Okay, so I gave him a news article. I had him read it. And then I had him answer 4 questions. So the 4 questions he could have answered very simply. He could have elaborated on them, but I had him read it. Then we took a break and then I came back with some questions. Okay, so he not only answered the questions, but he answered them in very good detail. And I was really impressed with how he answered them. So with that, he is paying attention, and because I was watching him read this and I would have said, no way, Jose, is he paying attention? But he was paying attention because he could list back some things that I even had to go back and look because I was the one that came up with the questions and I had to make sure that that was the detail that was given in the article. So he did really well on that assessment. So are there any questions up to this point? Okay. So some strengths that AJ has, he is a hard worker and he wants to do well. Obviously his hard work is paying off. He's improving on his reading levels. He's got good grades in math. AJ comes to class on time and is ready to work when the bell rings, and he has many friends and is active in many of the extracurricular activities. Some things that AJ probably needs to work on. He's still off task many times during a class period. He's unorganized and doesn't turn in his work on time. He has a hard time sitting still in class and can become a distraction to others. So with those things being said, we have come up with some short-term goals. So these are a 9-week goal. So by the end of the first 9 weeks, AJ will be able to read 100 words per minute with 80% accuracy when given a grade level text as measured by teacher observations and assessments. I think this is very doable for him. As we get back into school and he's using that brain more, I really think that he'll be able to do that very easily. So the second short-term goal is by the end of the first 9 weeks, AJ will be able to independently fill out his planner daily during the last period of class as measured by teacher observations and random checks. So at the beginning of the school year, I will give AJ a physical planner so that he can write down hour by hour what they worked on in class, what assignments are due, when they are due, and until it kind of becomes a routine for him and he's able to do it independently. So in the beginning, it'll be a lot of one-on-one, with the para and him just getting it all done. And then hopefully, and then once in a while, I will do a random check on the planner to make sure he's filling it out. And we'll see if that helps him stay more organized. So, two long-term goals that I have set for AJ. By the end of the IEP year, when given a grade level book and teacher provided book report template, AJ will be able to complete a book report that includes the main idea, 3 supporting details, and the conclusion with 80% accuracy in 3 out of 4 assignments as measured by teacher observations and assessments. So when he moves up next year into 7th grade, he will have to do 4 of these book reports, one every 9 weeks for that teacher. She's a very regimented teacher, so I feel like this will create a good foundation for him. So by having that template, it will get his mind thinking in the way of, I've got to think about my introduction, the main idea of the book, what 3 good supporting details were there in that, and then the conclusion of the book. So hopefully this will get him headed in the right direction this year as then he transfers into the junior high setting next year. So number 2 long-term goal, by the end of the IEP year, AJ will complete and turn in assigned homework on time in 4 out of 5 instances as measured by teacher records. So this will be us paying attention to late assignments and things like that. I'm hoping that as he gets more familiarized with his planner, that this becomes less and less of an issue. Because once he gets into junior high next year, those things will be counted off if he doesn't turn them in on time. Now, I think that with your continued support as his parents, that will have a very positive effect on his academic success. So if you can help him with organizational skills at home, we'll continue to work on them at school. We'll work on keeping his backpack organized, his locker organized. We'll try to help him go through his emails daily to try to, make sure you don't have a whole lot of inbox stuff. I believe at home that if you could help by checking his planner daily, and then you know what's going on during the day and what homework is due. And then it also gives him a refresher of what he did, or, oh no, I have this homework to do tonight. If you could do that daily and go through his backpack daily, I think that will really help him in his school day. Another way you as parents can help is to sit down and read with him 3 times a week for 20 minutes at a time. I know with sports, it's really difficult to get that to happen. And I know you guys farm, so it's even more difficult. But I think 3 times a week for 20 minutes is doable. I think that, and it can be that you sit down and read to him for 20 minutes, or you go back and forth, or, any of that could help. So we'll still continue with his modifications, accommodations. We'll still continue with being in the resource room for ELA and math. He'll get extra time on some of his assignments. And then let's get him successful. Let's get him ready for junior high. I'm really excited for him in his future. So thank you all for coming. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys this year and building this relationship and really taking the time to get AJ to grow in his academics. So thank you. Have a good night.